Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Just doing a quick sound check before we kick off. If I could get you to raise your hands if you can hear me and see the screen, please. I see a few hands raised already. Excellent. Wonderful, thank you so much. We've got a few more just waiting to join, so I'll give it 30 seconds before we officially kick off. Hello everyone, happy to kick off. Welcome to today's webinar on optimizing production with a smarter factory. Today's session, I'm very happy to be joined with Lucia Mundinano, and Lucia is going to do a bit of an intro just right away after I'm done. My name's Darshni Shah. I'm the product manager here with K3 CISPRO. Today's webinar is very much going to be focused in and around introducing manufacturing operations management, CISPRO's module that's been introduced for a few years now that's used predominantly on the factory floor. It's geared pretty much for individuals who haven't already worked with CISPRO Mom, and hopefully if you've already got Mom, you'll learn a thing or two that you might not have already known. A little bit about myself, I did join K3 here in 2018 and I left the warm mountain oceans of Vancouver in Canada, as you can detect from the accent, for the flattest part of the country in Cambridgeshire here in the UK. Lucia, I'd love for you to introduce yourself today, please.
Hi, thanks, Darshni. So my name's Lucia Mundignano. I'm one of the technical sales consultants here at K3 CISPRO. I joined the company back in 2005 when I didn't have grey hair, and I just thought I'd give you an introduction as to what hobbies I've got outside of work, just so it's not all work. So I enjoy kayaking, mountain biking and walking my pet dog Neo, which hopefully won't bark whilst we're doing this session this afternoon.
That's pretty extreme kayaking there, Lucia. Even for a Canadian, that looks like white water.
Yeah, that was one of those type 2 fun moments.
Lovely. Well, I think we're happy to switch off our webcams. Everyone knows what we look like at this point. So
Yeah.
if you want to kick off, we'll get into the presentation itself.
Okay, thank you then, Darshni. Just move it on. So just in terms of what we are going to run through this afternoon, I've got a couple of slides to go through, but there will be a live demonstration. So we'll have a look at the solution as a whole, and then the processes involved. And then we'll take a deeper dive into some of the data collection aspects and factory performance. And then, as I said, we're going to a live demonstration and then wrap up with some of the business benefits. So in terms of the solution, so CISPRO's manufacturing operations management provides a fully integrated solution for the effective management and optimization of your manufacturing operations. It provides the ability to quickly and accurately schedule and then publish the schedules and job lists to the shop floor that can then be viewed on any device from anywhere. You can collect data from the shop floor from both humans and machines, allowing you to gain real-time status visibility of employees, equipment, and jobs. So we are now in the fourth industrial revolution, or Industry 4.0 as it's more commonly known. And this means that modern factory equipment is digitized, or older equipment can be retrofitted to take you to the first steps of digitization. So Mom is able to understand the data spitting out. So this means that data can automatically be captured and read without manual input, and you can gain real-time visibility of start, stop, quantity, downtime, etc. You can see how you are performing in real time and resolve issues before they become a problem. As a manufacturer, you have two types of resources, people and machines, and you pay a lot of money to have both of them, so you should monitor how well they are performing. There are out-of-the-box key performance indicators, metrics, and a means of measurement to help you identify and drive loss out of your business, making you more competitive and profitable. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So in terms of the processes involved, let's just quickly run through this. The planner can use the scheduler, the graphical schedule, to do the schedule. That then gets published to the shop floor, and then we can have all the collection, whether it's manual or automatic. We can track what's going on the shop floor, and then from that data we can analyze it and use that information to help improve. So when we come to the demonstration, I'm going to focus on the scheduling. So what I'd like to do next is just have a deeper look into the collection side of it. So in terms of data collection, what you're able to do is have a manual collection. So if you've not got digitized machines or you're not at that stage yet, you can capture manual information via the shop floor operator using customizable touchscreen terminals or tablets. So you can capture things like employee time, if they go off for a break, or if they want to report an issue. You can do things such as printing labels. You can actually do material issues and report scrap as well. And in terms of digitization, the automatic side of it, data can be automatically gathered from the devices on those digitized machines. So for example, the machine time, job progress reporting, the status of the machine on there. But you can also have a hybrid of both the manual and auto. So for example, where you haven't got a machine digitized, but you still want to capture that machine data, you can allow your employees to capture this using the touchscreen terminals. So you know, the job progress reporting, not only for the employee, but also for the machine. So data collection could be from more sources.
Actually, Lucia, just before we move on, I've got a quick poll question that I wanted to put out there because I want to get a sense of how many of the attendees today actually have machines on the shop floor that are already able to capture data. So I'm just going to launch the quick poll to get a sense. Everyone, you'll get to see that on your screen pop up. If you could just answer that question, it's really high level. Do you have machines already capturing data on your shop floor? That's a yes or a no, or not quite sure yet. I see the votes coming in already. Excellent. Looks like most people have voted. That's great. Wonderful. Thanks very much. I'm going to close the poll at that. And it looks like we've got about 54% that already have machines able to capture on the data floor. So that's great. Wonderful. Back to you, Lucia. Thanks.
Back to me. Okay, thank you very much. So just to recap on the data collection, it can be manual, auto, or a hybrid of that. And obviously with the hybrid or the auto, what you'll be able to do is get the overall equipment effectiveness as well as your overall labor effectiveness. So in terms of what this means in analysis and where your losses might be and how your factory's performing, if you look at the day as in there's 24 hours, it could be that you've only got shifts for 20 of those hours. So immediately out of a 24-hour day, you've got a 4-hour loss. And then if we look at actually how the machines are loaded, there could be idle time, machine could be set up or being torn down or having cleaning or maintenance. And again, that might be another 4 hours. So now you're down to 16 hours. And then if we look at availability loss, so the machine might break down or there's a tool in failure or an operator hasn't turned up to actually run the machine, again, we can capture the losses there. And then we've got things like performance loss. So the machine isn't running as smoothly as it could. So the operation's taking longer, or the operator isn't efficient, or there's equipment wear. You know, they are causing the runtime to take longer. So again, we can capture those losses. And then we can look at things like quality loss. So you know, you should have made 10, but you've only made 8 because 2 had to be scrapped. So we can capture the time lost from having to rework bad product. So effectively, what you get is actually how many hours were effective in that 24-hour period. So it might be only 10 hours there. And if you imagine This is just one day with one resource, so you can multiply all these lost hours by the number of days in the year, by the number of resources, and you can get a cost per hour of what your factory performance is on there. So supporting this, there are some out-of-the-box key performance indicators that will automatically sort of populate based on the information being fed through compared to what the schedule is on there. We're going to look at this in a live situation in a moment, so I won't sort of dwell on this one too much. So if we pop over to my mom's screen. Okay, so what I'm just going to start off with is what you might see on on the shop floor, what's published to the shop floor. So here we have a live view of the current production plan for my manufacturing operation in this example on here. So we can see all of my resources, my machines or labor resources down here, and obviously my timeline going across. Now, I don't know how well you can see my screen, but you might notice that there's some kind of green shading and red bits and blue bits on here. And this is just kind of showing me that there's activity happening on this plan. So if I focus in on one of my machines, we can see I can actually drill down on here into the detail and get a real-time view on what is actually happening on this job, what operations it's going through, where it's up to at the moment, materials, and any production issues that have been recorded against that. So any operation, any job, you can drill down in and get that real-time visibility on there. So how did we get to this production plan? Well, we get to it from using the visual planner, the graphical drag and drop planner. That's part of the MOM module. Now, just to give a kind of a little bit of user orientation around this screen, typically what the planner will have are two monitors. So they'll have one monitor which will show all of the jobs to be planned and scheduled, and then it'll have another monitor showing all of the resources and the timeline on there. But obviously, for the purposes of this webinar, I'm kind of squeezing it all onto one screen. So what I'd like to do is just start off with a bit of explanation about the jobs that we're bringing through on here. Now, what is presented to the planner is all kind of customizable, so you can filter out, you can restrict the view of what you bring through. And in my example here, I'm kind of bringing in the main pieces of information that I need to help me plan. And if I just scroll across, we can see on here we've got some critical information on there. So out of all my jobs, if I've got any that are linked in to customer sales orders, we can see the detail there and when it's actually required by. And we can also see ones that have been scheduled where we're running late, immediately I can have my attention drawn to that. And if we just sort of right click on here, you're able to choose what columns, the order, how the columns appear, and we're also able to put our own custom filters so we can quickly drive through the data and pull out what we want to see. Other things you can do is you can have something called a marker. There's a couple of markers that you can apply, and if you imagine a marker as being the little sticky post-it note that goes around the monitor. So this is something that you can set up site specific, and it just allows the planner to add their own notations, and then this can be sorted on and searched for. For example, if we click up onto my tab up here, we can see I've got some predefined filters, so I can use my marker to say if anything's urgent, and the system will allow me to then pull that information out, or my jobs that are for the USA, for example. And I can also use these filters for any of the pieces of information. So in this example, if I want to see what jobs I've got for my wheel assemblies, or for my frames, or for my handlebars, or if I want to see all my unscheduled jobs, so filter out the ones that have already been scheduled and just concentrate on the ones that are requiring scheduling. So I've got the ability to sort of slice and dice and present the information as I need it on there. So if we have a look a little bit more detail into some of the information on here, we can see I've got the ability to look at the material availability on there. So we've got green and yellow, and if there's shortages, we can highlight those up. So if we focus on this job here for the handle, and if I just double click in, we can actually get all of the material allocation visibility that required for this this job, and we can see what materials are available and what materials aren't available. And again, I can carry on drilling into this, and we can see here the kind of stock profile for this product. So we can see the opening balance, what's planned to come in and planned to come out. And we've got an example here, there's 10 planning to come in, and I can actually expand that out, and we can see there's a purchase order on the system for a quantity of 10 coming in on that date there. So we will have visibility of where we have shortages, where that shortage is likely to be replenished.
That's great, Lucia, because it's actually pulling CISPR data directly into this particular module as well. You're not having to go into your inquiry screen, are you, at this stage? You're
No, quite right.
on one screen.
You can do all your interrogation from one place on there. So what we've been looking at are the other jobs on here. Now, if any of you use the master subjob capabilities, we can actually make use of that within MOM as well. So I have one master and sub job on my system, and we can see here there's the master job. What I'm able to do is actually expand that out, and we can see all of the sub jobs that are associated with that master job. And if there were further sub jobs for these sub assemblies, again, we can keep expanding out until we get to the last layer on there. So what this means is that I can schedule the master job, and the system will automatically schedule all the dependent sub jobs in line to make them available for when the master job needs them on there. The other thing we can do is we can pull in the suggestions that MRP has made for jobs. Okay, so if we want to have further visibility going out into the future of what our resource requirements might be, we can actually add this into the plan to get an insight into where potential bottlenecks might be on resources on there. So these are all my suggested jobs coming through from MRP. And lastly, on here, we have got the concept of what if jobs. Now, this can be used when you get, for example, a customer ringing up and says, oh, I need this. I haven't placed an order for it yet, but when could I have it? So this is kind of like you're capable to promise. So what I'm able to do is I can add a job in, and I can say it's for my B100. And my default routing, I'm making it at my finished goods warehouse. I want a quantity of 10, and if we just leave start date, due date the same on there, and click OK, and what it will do, it will add that as a what if job onto my plan. So the first thing I can do is see if I've got enough of the material allocations in stock. So that's the first check I can do. And then what I can do is I can auto schedule. Now it might be that I don't want to schedule today, because obviously it's nearly 3 o'clock, so it's unlikely that we'd start it today, but I could put it to say, right, we're going to schedule from tomorrow, put that in, okay. And if I just double click on there, it will take me to when the first operation is starting. So it's slotted it into the next available time frame that we have. So we can see here the light blue on there. And if I just expand out, it's telling us when we could potentially start this and when we could potentially have it finished by, based on our current resources and what it needs to go through. Okay, now you can't publish this to the shop floor. You can't, you know, book time or do it. It's basically there as a placeholder and the ability to do a what if you needed to slot in a rush order job. Okay, so if we go back to my production jobs on here and let me find my frame. Okay, so at the moment we've been looking at all the jobs on here, but I can be a bit more granular now and have a look at one in a bit more detail. So what I'm able to do is expand out on that job, and we can see all of the resources it needs to go through. So in this example, it goes through laser cutting, welding, and spray painting. And if I just scroll down a bit more, we can see that the welding operation also requires a tool. So we can also see any additional constraints or secondary constraints that we need for when we run this job through. So if we don't have any capacity, any availability on that tool, then the system will constrain the scheduling of that on there as well. So if I just take this job and just give you an idea of what we can do in terms of the planner sort of dragging and dropping, I can take this job here and I can actually put it onto the planning board. And because of the way I've got my settings at the moment to plan forward, what it allows me to do is place the first operation on here, which is the tube laser cutting center. And as you can see, it's only letting me put it onto that one there. So it knows where is valid to drop operations onto. So if I just put it there, for example, we can see now what the system has also done is scheduled in all the other operations as well. And if I just want to cancel that, I can just say unschedule. Now, it could be that my welding is a bottleneck. So I actually want to fix in the welding operation and let the other ones sort themselves out around. So I can just directly drag the operation on. And now you can see it's only allowing me to put it onto the welding resource. And if I drop it on there, it will then schedule any of the operations before it and any of the operations after it as well. So that's the dragging and dropping and the sort of fine tuning and manipulating. But obviously the whole point of the scheduler is to make things a bit more efficient. So it's likely that you'll want to do more sort of en masse scheduling. So what we're able to do is use the auto schedule function. So in this example, I'm just going to filter out all my helmets, and you can see here some I've already scheduled, but we've got some that are unscheduled in this example. And what I'm able to do is basically highlight any of the operations that I want to do en masse in an auto schedule. And just to give you an example on here, these helmets, they can come in different colors. So if I wanted to quickly sort of sort them into different attributes, because it would make sense to run certain operations together, I can actually use the grouping and do it that way. Okay, so if I click on auto schedule in this example, so what the system will do, it will load onto my auto scheduling dialog box here in the order that they were presented on the filter screen, and that's the order in which it will run the sequencing through. Now, as a planner, I can change that around. So if I wanted to move this one to the bottom, I can do that, or I can schedule by priority index, and I can manually put in the priority I want those to go through. So as a planner, I've got the capability to determine what is the best optimization for my plan. And obviously you might want to hit the delivery dates required by, but also you might want to group together operations to minimize setup or things like color changes and stuff like that. Now I can just bring this down just to show you that there's some other parameters we can set on here that determine how the scheduler works. Now, I won't go through all these because we haven't got all day, but we can determine whether or not we want to use alternate machines. So there might be a primary machine that I prefer to do this operation on, but if that primary machine is busy and another machine is free, that is a valid alternate, I can get it to use that. I can also choose whether I want to schedule forwards to make it as soon as possible, or schedule backwards to make it just in time. But what I'll do is I'll leave it at that. I'll just change it to a specific date. So we won't do it from today, but say we'll do it from tomorrow, and click schedule and go OK. And again, just to show you, if I just double click on one of these, a bit too far. Okay, it will show you where it's put those operations in on the board. Now, you may have noticed there's a slight color change on here. We've got some in green and some in yellow. But basically what the yellow is that we've placed it on our planning board, but we've not yet published it yet. So the shop floor don't know anything about this this operation being scheduled just yet. So until we publish, we're basically still in a kind of a what if mode on there. And there are other things we can do on here. So for example, I can just toggle the labels on and off, so you can see here the actual runtime, tear down setups. We got an orange block, so if there's a wait time on there. So again, as a planner, you've got the ability to sort of change views to help the data be a bit more meaningful to you. Okay, so that's looking at the jobs. If we concentrate now on the second part of this, which are all the resources and the timeline, I can change the sort of scaling of this, so I can kind of zoom in and zoom out on there. And in terms of resources, these can be machine resources, so actual pieces of equipment, or they can be tools, or they can be employees on there. Okay, so you can kind of classify the type of resource that it is. Now, the fundamental thing on here is obviously the shift plan. I'm just going to scoot back to this afternoon. Or tomorrow. So we can see here on each of my resources, I've got different shift plans. Now, I've color coordinated these again just to make it easy for me to look at it. But on my plastic machine here, we can see I've got a night shift, a morning shift, an afternoon shift, and it goes back to night shift, morning shift. And on the Friday, instead of the night shift, this brown is maintenance time. So I have planned maintenance on this shift every Friday afternoon. But if we look at some of the other resources, we can see on my spray painting, I've just got some activity during the day and it doesn't operate at night. So we can see on my quality and inspection, I've got some resource there, and then I've got a lunch break and some more resource. So you can be really flexible on how you set up your shift plans, and each piece of equipment can have its own shift plan. And we do that through the setup on here. So we can see, if I look at my 24-hour day one, we can see we start on a Monday morning, and then we got our night shift, and then we go all the way through to Friday afternoon, where we have our planned maintenance. And you can set up as many shift plans as you want that correspond to how your factory operates on there. If you've got things like factory shutdowns, or you have very busy periods where instead of running 2 shifts, you want to run 3 shifts for a couple of weeks, you can make global changes to these shift plans to the appropriate resources. So again, you don't have to create multiple shifts to accommodate different changes on there. And also, as a planner, what you've got the ability to do is kind of make ad hoc changes on the fly. So if we look at this this resource here, and we get to Friday afternoon and everything shuts down. It might be you want to clear out this operation, you want to get it done and dusted because the customers may be waiting for it. So you make the decision that you're going to put some overtime in on the Saturday. What you're able to do, if I just double click in here, you can open up that time frame and you can say, right, well, I'm going to put some approved overtime, and you can either toggle around with the gauge on there, or I always find it's easier to just type it in. So we're going to put some overtime from 10 o'clock to 4 p.m. on there and save that in. And what it's just asking me now is, do I want anything to be highlighted that might be affected by this? And I'll say yes, and immediately it's highlighted this operation. So if I just pick this up and just do a little kind of drag on there, we can see now it's changed to yellow because the shop floor don't know about that change yet until we publish it. But now what we're doing is we're actually finishing our operation during that Saturday piece of overtime on there. So we publish this, and that is what allows us to get to this view. So what we can do now is we can have a look at some of the data collection and how some of the automation works and how the employees can sort of use the system to feedback what they're up to.
I guess that's really the key part of it. We spent quite a bit of time on the scheduler because the scheduler is really setting that factory floor up for success and optimizing everything so that people are lined up and they know what they need to do.
Okay, so we'll start off with the digitization side of it. So what I'm going to do is just pop into my resource maintenance, and this is where we can see all of our resources, and what you're able to do is put images so to easily identify what you've got. So I've got my plastics machine here, and if I go in, I'm not going to describe all the setup options on here, but what I will do is just bring your attention to this area here where we say automation, and I've ticked that box there to say I'm going to take the data that can be automatically output from the digitization of this machine and use that, interpret that in MOM to automatically capture that machine information. Now we can see all the different IDs on here. Now I've just got mine set up to simulator because I'm not actually, believe it or not, I'm not actually running a manufacturing company from my home office here. But what I'm able to do is give you an idea of how that might work in terms of the data collection. So if I just feed it a task to say, and we can be working on this one here. Okay, so it's picked up from my job operation that the expected cycle time on here is 300 parts per hour. But in my simulation, what I'm able to do is just kind of give you an idea. I won't put it on 3,000 parts an hour. I'll just change it. Otherwise, it was kind of like looking at grass grow and paint drying. And we can say we get a pretty high scrap rate on this one. So I'll just nudge that up and hit start. Okay, so what this is simulating now is data that would be coming from the digitization device and PLC on the actual machine. So it's sending out data. So with every good quantity it reports, and obviously any scrap it picks up, it can via the calibration of that pick up what the scrap reason might be. And we can see we can put other tags on here. So if you also wanted to collect the temperature of the machine, because it might be if the temperature goes too high or it goes too low, that might be a cause of quality issues. So again, we could put those tags, or we can pick up those tags and help identify what that might mean for a sort of a supervisor on there. So there you go. So it's basically running through good parts collected and scrap being collected on there as well. So obviously in a live environment, this would be picking up what is actually happening on each of your digitized pieces of equipment. So if we just stop that on there. So in terms of what the operators might see for when you're collecting things manually on there, I got the concept of Workbench terminals. Now, just to give you a little view on here, I've set up some example terminals, and typically what you would have is maybe a touchscreen terminal at various strategic location points around your shop floor. Just to give you an example here, I've got some set up for assembly, drilling, plastic molding, so I can see what's happening on my machines, even though I'm collecting the data automatically. So I'll keep it at assembly. I'm just going to log in as an operator. Okay, so I've gone in as Sandy, and you can see Sandy's got a yellow bar, and we can see this work center resource has got a yellow bar, and that basically means that Sandy is actually attached to this task, which is a setup task, which is why it's in yellow. So we can see immediately what Sandy is working on here. And if we look at this information, we can see we've got a little paper clip, and that means there's some documentation associated with this. So I can actually go in and have a view of that. So this might be the drawing or the works instructions, the details of what needs to be done on there. So you can attach multimedia, whether it's PDFs, drawings, anything that the system can interpret. You can show that on there. It's just this is the webinar. Just move that out of the way. So we got the ability to do that, and this is where it can be customized as well. So you can put buttons on here that will allow you to say what you want your employee to feedback. So if you want the employee to say when they're going for a break or a lunch, you could get the employee to do the material issue from here, or to reject materials, or to report production issues on there. So as an operator, what I can do is I can actually go in and report and say, I've completed that setup now on there. And we'll see now it appears off my list, and I've gone back to being red. Now, if we look at this other work center on here, which is my wheel assembly, we can see again this operation is running on there, and what you're able to do on here is report back. It might be, I'm going to start that one, so let's start that one on there, and I can report, and I can say I have completed a quantity of so many, I have scrapped one, and you can put in your scrap reason. So say damaged goods, I'm not going to make a change. And just to give you an idea, we can get the system to then pick up if there's any machine performance issues, as well as the scrap issues. And all this goes towards picking up, the factory performance. So in this example, I'll say, let's have operator inefficiency, having a bad day. Okay. So hopefully that gives you an idea there of the what users can do, as well as what the machine automation can do. So if we just go in now and have a look at things like employee status. Okay, so we can see from this view here what each of the operators is up to, and we can see if there's been production issues. So green means they're working on something, grey means they're not actually clocked in. If it was red, it would mean that they're in, but they're not actually booked on any direct time on there. So automatically the system is capturing the operators' overall labour effectiveness, the quality, their performance, their availability. And likewise, we get the same on equipment status as well. So we can go through, we can see all of our machines that are idle, ones that have had operational production issues. ones that are in setup. We can see ones that are in operation and what's actually going through, and also if there's been issues on there. So as a supervisor, you haven't got to start walking around your shop floor. You can get all this information directly to your screen based on what is happening live, real time. So all this information then feeds through to the analysis of it all. So if we look at things like the continuous improvement, we can get things like the loss management. So this is that factory performance slide that I showed, 24 hours in a day, but where are our losses? So as we've been going through today, what I've been able to do, and as I said, we're just looking at one day, we can see where today's performance losses have come from, and we can see where today's quality losses have come from. And a bit boring, my load and loss of nothing planned through and no task. But from here, I can drill down even further. So if I click onto performance, we can see all of my performance issues today. So everything that got reported as to why things didn't run as well as they should. And we can go in directly from here, and I can look at that piece of equipment. And from here, we can get all of the stats. And there's my calendar, 24 hours, and it's telling me where my losses are and quality losses and what our actual effective hours are so far for the day. And likewise, if we look at the, I went back too far, just bear with me. I think I've changed my date, sorry, user error. This didn't happen in practice.
So I think I like the fact that you can actually drill down. So from a continuous improvement perspective, you have the ability now to start asking questions based on the data that's been captured.
Yeah, so I get back to today. I'd skip back to a couple of days. So if we look, so that's what we looked at, the equipment, but I can also do the same for the employee as well. Yeah. So we can see what each employee's effective hours. And this is just for the day. This could be day, week, month, quarter, or a custom range that you want to put in. So I'll just give you one other example of some analysis coming out. And if we look at quality, so we can get our quality dashboard up. So we can see that so far today, 29 good units have been completed. We can see how many have been scrapped, how many, what this equates to in loss of hours, and what our percentage of quality loss is. And then here we have the kind of heat map of what all the reasons are on there. So what I'm going to do now is pass you back to Darshini just to summarize what we've seen.
All right, thanks very much, Lucia. Hopefully you've got a really high-level introduction today about how MOM really does give us more visibility. We've got the ability for the scheduler not only to see all of the production that's happening currently, but also what's coming down the pipe to make it available. And now the power of that schedule is available and presented to the rest of the business as well. With real-time data capture, you've got really quick ability to see what's happening on the shop floor, regardless of where you are, what's running currently, what's the current status of the jobs, especially when you've got rush orders. That visibility is really important. Once you start having that visibility, you can evaluate the effectiveness. So not just of the equipment, but also of the individual employees. How's the performance? What's the quality that we're driving towards? And fundamentally, that drives us towards where our costs are building up. As Lucia mentioned earlier, we may have bottleneck work centers. One that we've paid a lot of attention to may change over time, and that fundamentally is building up towards our costs. So it gives us the ability to focus our attention on the areas that are costing us the most. When we look further, it's not just about the cost, it's also about the time. And as you're fine-tuning your production, you're looking to maximize the amount of time that you're spending on value-add activities rather than things such as your setup time. So you have the ability with that visibility also, again, to look at maximizing your time on value-add and eliminating your costs. And then, as always, you're going to measure performance, you're going to plan, you're going to track. The automation will help drive some of that. And it's all well and good to look at all of that information and build it up, but you want to analyze it as well. And finally, everything that we've done has been without touching a piece of paper so far. You have the ability to be able to move towards that online if you've got sustainability goals internally as well. So we've given you a bit of a whirlwind tour, very, very high level, of some of the things that we have available and the power of the manufacturing operations management. We've kind of touched a little bit on the automation abilities that are there as well, but more importantly, about the things you can do even if your machines aren't spitting that data out for you. So with that, we wanted to give it a quick wrap up at this point. The Q&A panel is absolutely open, so if you do have questions, feel free to type them in there and we'll see what we can do. Wanted to thank you very much for joining at this point, and we'll give it a few minutes for questions.
Do you want to do the poll as well, Darshini?
Oh, that would be good.
That we keep forgetting about.
That's the one that I keep forgetting about. We might as well see if anyone's still with us and paying attention. So I'm going to launch another poll. Have you seen some value in this? And I appreciate that there are a few that are already using MUM. So if you could please vote on that panel. I do see some votes coming in, so we've not lost everyone yet, Lucia. This is good. So it looks like a lot of the people that are attending today are busy evaluating MUM as a solution. And we've got about a quarter that are already using it. So it'd be great to be able to engage with you as well. Fantastic. I'm going to close that poll at this point because it looks like we've got most of the answers in. Thanks very much. I have a comment that's come through. Happy with what you've taken us through, Lucia. Thank you. That's absolutely perfect.
Thank you very much.
So I've got a question here that's come through. That's a really good question. I have a fiber laser machine, which is standalone. It's not smart, but could this be added to capture data? So this is a question that we get asked quite often. With MUM, what we're fundamentally doing is taking data that the machines are able to spit out and incorporating that with the rich data that you've already seen today around the schedule and the jobs and so on. So MUM wouldn't be able to allow that machine to become smart automatically. You would have to look to engage with someone to be able to put sensors on the machine. And there is plenty of technology that's available out there that allows you to add sensors on. The sensors will then feed into a data capture. It writes oftentimes to a SQL table or has API calls. And what we would do is then take the sensor information and what you saw Lucia show in the simulation with the tags. MUM itself has an API that allows us to suck that information in from the sensors. So we'd have to take that laser machine, which is standalone, and make it a little bit smarter than it is right now. And depending on what type of information you want to capture from there, you'd want to go ahead and put the sensors in the right position and capture that. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. If not, please feel free to add more into the question panel and we can elaborate on that. I've got a question here. We may have to pick this up separately, but let me go ahead and see if, Lucia, you can help answer this. To use MUM, will we have to have both FFS and MPS running smoothly?
So I'm not quite seeing which question is that.
Let me just forward finite scheduling and master production schedule.
So I'm just trying to find the question. All right, here we go. To use when we have to. So MUM will run independent of MRP, but it will also run in sort of harmony with MRP. So it doesn't really matter whether you're using MPS or forecasting or things like that. So in terms of the FFS, without getting too kind of in depth on here, it does help with the scheduling if you've got the kind of the broad brush capacity availability is against your work centres in SysPro, because what happens is when a job is created in SysPro, it will stamp on the start date or the delivery date, and it's usually using the kind of the capacity side in there. So there are some benefits for making sure that that's put in there. But what we tend to do when we obviously do the implementation of MOM is we go through what the data setup is in SysPro, just to make sure that the data in SysPro can feed through and support what MOM needs out of it. Hopefully that's answered the question.
Perfect. Thanks very much. And I think that the second question that's there is somewhat related. You said earlier that master and sub jobs will automatically reschedule when using MOM. How does that differ to standard MRP?
Okay, so what you can do in MOM has the visibility of what the relationship is between the sub jobs and the master job. So in effect, it means that you could schedule the master job on there, and it will make sure all the dependent ones obviously scheduled to fulfill what the master job requires. So in terms of the dragging and dropping, I only had to drag on that master job when I was in that master sub job view, and it would automatically then schedule the sub jobs that need to precede that master job on there. So again, it's just, you can schedule in a more kind of flat manner. So if you wanted to schedule your sub jobs independently, you can obviously do that as well. But it's just another tool to help group things together and make sure those dependencies are managed.
Thanks, Lucia. That makes sense. And it sounds like we've got a few more questions coming in and around how MOM and MRP really work together. And so the next question is, if jobs are moved in the scheduler, will accepting MRP reschedule the jobs?
Jobs, right? Okay, yeah. So this would be down to configuration and the MRP reschedule flags and such like. So when you're in SysPro, there's further fields now on the job that also say what the scheduled start date and time and scheduled end date and time. So there's extra information now in SysPro on there. So MRP will respect what the scheduler has published out.
I think fundamentally it gets down to what you need to do as a business and what your business decisions are, because that's going to be something that gets evaluated as part of the consultancy process. Because MOM will not stand on its own, MRP will also be considered as part of this. And as Lucia mentioned earlier, your master data potentially might have to change as well, especially the way that you've got your bill of materials set up to make sure that you've got that smoother flow. Hopefully that rounds out that set of questions a little bit better. And that seems to be the last one I'm seeing here. I'm not sure if you've had anything else through, Lucia.
I'm just having a look. That's the last question I can see. Yeah, I'm scrolling through.
And that's a chance, of course, for anyone listening to get their last bits in if they'd like. It looks like there's not much else coming in. Excellent. Well, on that note, I will wrap us up. Getting close to the top of the 45 minutes at this point as well. So hopefully you get a little bit more time back in your day. I want to thank you, Lucia, for putting on a great show and tell. And thanks everyone for joining us today. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.